Completing the effective exercise experience questionnaire was both insightful and surprisingly thought-provoking for me. Before taking it, I assumed my feelings toward exercise were fairly straightforward. I generally enjoy being active and seeing how it is beneficial. However, going through each question made me realize how complex my emotions and my emotional responses to exercise really are. The AFFEXX model is based on three key components: antecedent appraisals, core effective exercise experiences, and attraction antipathy. Antecedent appraisals are the background judgment or beliefs that shape how we are feeling during exercise. Things like whether we feel competent, whether we enjoy exercising with others, or whether we perceive exercise as empowering or threatening. The second part, core affective experiences, reflects our immediate emotional responses. For example, whether we feel pleasure or displeasure, energized or tired, calm or tense, during and after the exercise. The final component, attraction antipathy, represents the overall motivation we have to either approach or avoid exercise based on these accumulated feelings over time. What stood out to me was, while reviewing my scores, was how interconnected these three components really are. For example, if I appraise an activity as something I'm good at or one that fits my strength, I tend to feel more energized and positive during it. That positive affect then strengthens my overall attraction towards that kind of exercise. On the other hand, if I feel unskilled or uncomfortable, such as in a new or overly structured group setting, sorry about that. On the other hand, if I feel unskilled or uncomfortable, such as in a new or overly structured group setting, the entire experience feels less enjoyable, and my motivation to repeat it drops. One of the things that confused me about the AFFEXX, filling out the AFFEXX, was that some of the positive or perceived positive responses were towards going towards 7, and then some of the positives were going towards 1, and vice versa. So some of the negatives were going towards 7, some of the negatives were going towards 1, and it made me wonder like how these differences would like be put together into the table. But then it took me a few questions to realize that the format alternated and that I had to pay close attention to which statement was on the left or the right. I actually appreciate that in hindsight because it forced me to slow down and think honestly about my responses instead of just going through it automatically, which is a very common thing. I'd say like even when you do like your teacher reviews and things, you might just put strongly agree for everything rather than really take the time to respond and think about the question. Looking back at my results, I scored higher in areas related to competence, empowerment, and accomplishment. That makes sense because I usually feel strong and confident when I'm training consistently. I also rated positive feelings like enjoyment, accomplishment, and pleasure fairly high. However, I scored lower in areas that were group exercise or energy and calmness. I would say this is because in group settings, well, me, I'm personally one who likes to do things by myself, even though I play a team sport. But yeah, I tend to prefer exercising on my own or in small groups where I can focus rather than a large competitive social setting. The group-based questions about enjoying exercise with others or loving to show off didn't resonate with me. I'm not driven by attention, which is all comparison, because I think for me the biggest thing to compare myself with is myself. It keeps me on the right track and prevents ego. So when we talked about in class the task and the ego, I'd say I'm more task orientated. One big realization I had is that my effective experience with exercise really depends on what type of exercise we're talking about. So for example, if I was invited to play soccer, I would 100% get up and go to play. But without the cognitive appraisal, I think it would just be a reflex. But if I was invited to go on a run, I'd have to I'd end up thinking about all of the alternatives and reasons not to go on a run and reasons why I should go on a run. And there's a much higher chance that the resistant factors would outweigh the push factors. I believe that's the one. Yeah. So I think the AFFEXX was good. It was our strategies to enhance positive exercise experience. Going forward, I want to focus on maintaining the activities that enhance my positive emotions, such as soccer and going to the gym, ones that give me a sense of mastery and enjoyment. To improve my less favorable areas, I could experiment with smaller group settings where there's more support and less performance comparison. I could also try mindfulness or recovery-focused cooldowns to increase calmness and help me at the end of my sessions. Overall, completing the AFFEXX helped me recognize how strongly my emotions shaped my exercise habits. I learned that my motivation isn't just about discipline or health goals, it's deeply tied to how I feel during and after the activity. Understanding my own antecedent appraisals and core effective responses can help me design routines that are both enjoyable and sustainable. Thank you.